The Galactic Council's chamber fell silent as Ambassador Zethkar reviewed the ancient decree, his 6 eyes scanning the crystalline tablet with growing unease. 3,000 years had passed since they had banished humanity to the Outer Rim, a decision made in fear, justified by necessity, and celebrated as wisdom. Now, as reports flooded in from across the galaxy, that wisdom felt like the greatest mistake in Council history. "Counselor," his aide whispered, tentacles trembling with anxiety. "The humans, they're requesting an audience." Zethkar's primary heart skipped in unison. The last transmission from Earth's solar system had been a desperate plea for understanding, broadcast as their primitive ships limped toward the galactic edge. That was when humanity barely possessed faster-than-light travel, when their largest vessels could barely house 1,000 souls. The species requesting an audience today commanded fleets that blotted out stars. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the Council's home system grow larger through the viewports. Behind her stretched the Terran Expeditionary Fleet, 12,000 vessels representing not just Earth, but the 100 worlds humanity had claimed, terraformed, and defended in their exile. "Admiral, we're receiving their response," Communications Officer Park reported. "The Council. They're actually agreeing to meet." Admiral Chen Wei-Ming nodded grimly. His weathered face bore scars from the Kepler Rebellion, where human colonists had fought off slavers for 6 months with nothing but mining equipment and sheer determination. "They're curious. They want to see what we've become." "And terrified," Dr. Vasquez added, her xenobiology expertise providing insight the military minds often missed. "Every species they've encountered either stagnates or dies when cut off from the galactic community. We're the anomaly." Through the bridge speakers came the voice of Captain Sarah Okafor from the escort destroyer Resilience. "Contact with scout ships from 7 different species, Admiral. They're keeping their distance, but they're definitely studying us." Chen smiled. "Let them look. Let them see what humanity had built from nothing." The Council chamber had been redesigned since humanity's exile. Where once 50 species had gathered to govern the galaxy, now nearly 300 representatives filled the vast amphitheater. The galaxy had grown, expanded, flourished, or so they had believed. Dr. Vasquez entered with a small delegation, their simple uniforms stark against the elaborate robes and biomodifications of the Council members. She noticed how conversations died as they passed, how alien eyes tracked their every movement. "Humans of Terra," Counselor Prime Nexus spoke, his crystalline form resonating with harmonic authority. "You were exiled for the violence that seemed inherent to your species, for the chaos you brought to our peaceful galaxy. We gather today not to welcome you back, but to understand how you survived." Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly across the chamber. "Honored Counselor, you didn't just teach us to survive. You taught us to thrive." A murmur rippled through the assembly. This was not the broken plea they had expected. "You feared our violence, but violence is just one face of our adaptability. When you abandoned us to die in the void, we learned to turn scarcity into abundance, isolation into strength, and desperation into determination," she gestured. And holographic displays materialized above the assembly, showing star charts that made several species gasp in recognition. "The Andromeda sector, which you deemed uninhabitable due to its radiation storms? We built cities in its heart, using the very energy that would kill most species to power our civilization. The void reaches, where space itself seems to devour matter. We learned to harvest dark energy from its depths." The displays shifted, showing massive ships unlike anything in Council space, vessels that seemed to grow organically, their hulls incorporating materials that shouldn't exist. "The devourers that plagued the Outer Rim for 2 millennia?" Dr. Vasquez continued. "We didn't just fight them. We studied them, understood them, and found a way to communicate. They're our allies now." Counselor Nexus's harmonic frequency shifted to what humans had learned indicated distress. "That's impossible. The devourers are a plague. They consume everything." "They consume stagnation," Admiral Chen interrupted, his voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. "They devour species that stop growing, stop adapting, stop pushing forward. We offered them something they'd never encountered, a partnership with prey that had become predators." The holographs changed again, revealing the scope of human expansion. Not just worlds, but mobile habitats, space cities, and structures that defied conventional physics. You taught us the most valuable lesson in the galaxy, Dr. Vasquez said, her voice softening but losing none of its strength. That we could only truly depend on ourselves. Every species that cast us out, every civilization that turned away when we asked for help, every voice that agreed with our exile, you all became our teachers. In the observation deck of the Defiance, Marine Colonel James Reeves watched the Council's escort ships maintain their cautious distance. His enhanced hearing picked up Admiral Chen's voice from the bridge. Phase 2 authorized. Let them see what we've really become. The space around the Terran fleet shimmered, and suddenly the 12,000 visible ships became 60,000. Stealth technology, developed from necessity when hiding from Council patrols, had kept the true size of their delegation hidden. But it was the ships themselves that sent waves of shock through the Council's forces. These weren't just human vessels. Sleek ships with Andromeda's radiation cores flew alongside biomechanical craft that pulsed with devourer biotechnology. Vessels that flickered between dimensions, technology thought lost with the extinct temporal lords, moved in perfect formation. We didn't just survive our exile, Colonel Reeves murmured to himself, remembering the desperate evacuation from Earth centuries ago. We became something entirely new. The Council chamber erupted in chaos as the true scope of the human fleet became clear. Representatives who had never agreed on anything found themselves united in stunned silence as they realized the species they had cast out as primitive, warmongers, had become something unprecedented in galactic history. Dr. Vasquez waited for the tumult to die down before delivering her final words. We didn't come here seeking your approval or your forgiveness. We came to offer you a choice. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the assembly. Join us in pushing beyond the boundaries of what's possible, or watch from behind while humanity leads the galaxy into its next evolutionary phase. 3,000 years ago, you feared what we might become. Today, you can decide whether to fear what we have become, or to become something greater alongside us. As the last echoes of her voice faded, the Council faced a truth that would reshape galactic civilization. Their greatest mistake had given rise to their greatest hope. The exiles had returned not as conquered supplicants, but as the teachers the galaxy desperately needed.